Hello, fellow modelers, Bruce here. Well, I felt it was time for me to get back working on the layout. All I've been doing is working on locomotives and rolling stock and structures, and I need some place to run all these things. So I'm looking at the upper deck with you. This is the Slate Run Logging Railroad, of Pennsylvania, which also will serve other lumber-related industries and industries of the woods at the time, including oil wells and coal mines and tanneries and wood chemical plants and kindling plants and so forth. So far on the upper deck, I've just kind of worked on the long extension that goes along the wall towards the restroom down here. And as you come along in this direction, you're going to enter a wider peninsula. I've just cleaned it all off, and that took a couple days. Took the plywood off the bottom that was just laying there, and getting myself ready to work on this center area, which is going to be a view block mountain on the upper deck. And I had planned ahead a little bit on that when I built the bench work. As you can see, I've taken an area in the middle and separated it from what's over to the left of it and to the right of it. That is an area that I cannot reach by standing just on the floor and reaching into the layout. So over here, that part that's open, I can reach all the way from the outer edge to that center portion. And the same thing is true for this area right here closest to me that you see open. But when you get over to this big triangular opening over here, I will not be able to reach all the way into that corner. And so what I've done is measured where my arm sweep goes. And if you look over here, you can see an arrow pointing down. And then over on the wall, you can see an arrow pointing down. And I can reach in a swing from that arrow to that arrow. So what I will do now is put a wooden support that goes from arrow to arrow in that triangle in the corner, and put a piece of plywood in there. And that will also be part of the layout that does not have track on it, other than perhaps one oval that will cut through the mountain to the other side. But for the most part, it's going to be scenery and maybe some structures and so forth that I don't have to reach once they're installed. So I will give you updates as we go along. I hope that it won't be too long before you'll get an idea of what I'm talking about with that view block. All right, talk to you again soon. Quick update today because I had a lot of stuff to do that was not model railroading, but I did get a chance to put in this support and this angled support here, which cuts off that triangle, and I can reach out to this far, as you can see. So track work and so forth can very well be in this area, but in that area, the triangle, and that area in the middle, that's just got to be scenery. So tomorrow I will cut the piece of plywood or actually it's Luan, that will cover this triangle and from here to the wall, and screw that down. And once that's down, I come back with this white foam, which is the same thickness as this pink foam, but a heck of a lot cheaper. It's a much cheaper insulation foam, 4x8 sheets. Put that down, glue it, and when that's dry, I'll start with one layer of this pink and then work from there, making mountains and terrain and so forth, and documenting it as I go along. All right, talk to you again soon. Okay, another day, a little more progress. You can see I have the white foam now down in the center, going down the center of the peninsula. That's where I will have the mountain view block. So I'm ready now to start letting the land rise a little bit there. And over here in that triangle position and so forth, I have a second layer of pink foam. And that is kind of where I've always pictured those two oil wells. Those of you who have been following my builds, that's the Campbell oil well right there. And that's the Woody's well number 1 that I just finished up recently from K&L House of Wood, a very little known company. I'm thinking I've always wanted up here to have a little section of HON 30 track that would run along that wall and then curve out along the mountain to about the end of that white foam and have it set up with an auto reverse circuitry on it so that a little train, maybe a mining train or a logging train, 2 cars and a little locomotive would just keep cycling back and forth anytime I had any visitors here on the layout. No matter what other trains I was running, that one would keep going by itself. So we'll see. Might be able to make that happen. And, that's where we are. So as you see the next installment here, you'll probably start seeing the mountains arise in the center of that peninsula. Okay, talk to you again soon. Okay, next morning, the white foam is all glued down, but now I have to come over to this long extension along the wall and get this thing ready and make sure that it's at the right height to blend everything in. So for the last, year, I had the Campbell covered bridge finished, but I did not have the gorge cut underneath it, so I could start getting everything positioned properly. So this morning, the first thing I did was cut that gorge in. I'll talk more about that in a minute. So this section is going to have dual gauge trackage on it, hand laid, and it's got to match up on this end to the dual gauge track that's coming out of the covered bridge. And there's dual gauge trackage in the engine house that's going to be at that end. And there's one turnout that'll fit in there so that both bays of the engine house can be utilized. So I have to do, like I said, a little planning ahead here. Let's look at the gorge a minute. You can see I have curved it, put a curve in it at the end, swinging it to the right. And that's one way you can help blend a cut like this on a shelf layout to help the eye not just go dead into the backdrop. And we'll see how that develops as I create the scenery. And so this will all get scenery coverage on it, the sides. I'm not going to make this whole thing a stream. I think I'm going to make it pretty much a dry cut with maybe a trickle of water coming down the center. And let's see, what else I was going to tell you. Oh yeah, one of the reasons, and I think I mentioned this in a previous video, but one of the reasons I chose the Slate Run Railroad of the myriad of logging railroads that were in Pennsylvania at the time is that it was one of a handful that did have a covered bridge associated with it. And that covered bridge indeed was right adjacent to the engine servicing facility. So, it's not an exact matchup, but it certainly gives you a flavor of the original prototype scene. All right, so I have to do a little more work here, getting the position for my where that turnout goes, because I have to cut a relief in this top piece for the controls that will be on the fascia to control that turnout. So yeah, everything takes some planning, and you don't want to get ahead of yourself. But I will be able to glue the lower level pink foam down now today, and then once I get the positioning and for the mechanicals on that turnout, I can glue the top piece in. Progress. Talk to you soon. Now that I've cut in the notch for the covered bridge on the upper deck, I had to try to do something of where that cut goes into the backdrop, and I recalled what I did down here, where I just got a picture off of the internet that actually looks okay, especially when you see it in person. So you have a continuation of mountains in the distance, and then a body of water leading to the waterfall in the foreground. And so let's see what I came up with up on the upper deck by that covered bridge. Last night I finished notching the pink foam to lower the bridge down to the point where the tracks coming in are going to match up with the tracks of that I still have to lay, and it's about right now. We'll have to play with that a little bit, that depth of that notch. But anyway, thinking again of what I did on the lower deck with that photograph, is I went on to the internet and just searched for ground level photos of valleys with small streams. And because, as you remember what I said earlier in this video, is I was thinking of this not being a total stream bed, but rather pretty much a little dry cut with a tiny trickle of water coming down. So I wanted that trickle to continue into the backdrop. So let me zoom in a little bit slowly, and you look under the bridge, and so somebody looking under the bridge will see in the distance a green valley and a small stream down in the bottom, and I can just, when I do the scenery into that cut, make that blend in. So pretty happy with that. That might be the final winner, we'll see, but you get the idea of what I'm talking about. Alrighty, next up I got to show you what has stopped me for over a year now to finishing up this upper deck, because as always there's something I have to do that ground me to a halt. Talk to you soon. Alright, just a quick review. The bridge has dual gauge trackage on it with the narrow gauge on the right, closest to the aisle here, and the track is going to go down and feed into that Fine Scale Miniatures 2-stall engine house, and the left bay has dual gauge trackage with the narrow gauge on the right, and the right hand bay of the engine house is simply narrow gauge. So out about here, right about here, I have to put a gauge separation turnout that goes from dual gauge trackage feeding into it, and have the dual gauge continue to this side but split to narrow gauge on this side. And I made one of those. Let's go over here a minute and look at what I'm talking about. There is the gauge separation turnout. You can see that it's dual gauge trackage feeding into it, and then the turnout will either switch a engine over to this side for strictly narrow gauge, or the straight through line is dual gauge. And that I made, about 10 years ago. And the reason I know it's about 10 years ago, and I mounted it on this little display back then, was that I built those when I was working on my civil engineering certificate for the NMRA, and I earned that on May 1st, 2015. And that means I probably built those in April and maybe even March of 2015, and here we are in March of 2025. So 10 years ago. And I put them on there with every thought of, using them. I thought it would be back in New Jersey on my layout, so I didn't want to ballast them and so forth. But they are on there pretty sturdily. And so, I've been looking at this now for over a year, saying, okay, I got to get those off of there without breaking them, obviously. On that display also is a narrow gauge, strictly narrow gauge turnout that I also built at the same time, and a couple of standard gauge turnouts that I built also at the same time. All of those were with the same Fast Tracks jig, which was one of their most versatile. I did one of my earliest videos, maybe the second or third video I ever posted on this channel, was devoted to these turnouts, and I'll put a link to that video in the description. So, I got to get these carefully off of here, but just as importantly, when you look underneath, you see all the wiring and another Fast Tracks offering, which is their Bullfrog manual turnouts. And they work terrifically. Now, here you can see that I have them mounted directly underneath the track. The track is just on the other side of this plywood. On my new layout, I have that Luan or thin plywood down at the base, then it has to go through about 3 inches of foam before it gets up to the track. So these have to be screwed to the bottom of the Luan. This manual controller, let me see if I can come over here. You can watch the Bullfrog at the same time. Okay. That, I have plenty of this material and can make that a lot longer to come through the fascia over there. But all of this has to come off. I have to keep track of the wiring because not on this one, but look over here. The Bullfrog has the circuitry on it necessary to power the frogs. So I have to keep track of where each wire goes when I take it off, and I have to replicate it. So all of that has been looming larger in my mind than it might turn out to be, or maybe not. And it has what I call galvanized me into inaction. And that's why it's been a year of me finding anything else in the world to do than to finish this particular project up. So today I am going to tackle the disassembly of this, labeling where every single one of those wires went. And right now it's to get that gauge separation turnout off. But at the same time I will get all of them off, all labeled with the wiring, and set aside for future use. Alrighty, talk to you again soon, and hopefully it will be when I have everything disassembled. We'll see if this is the problem project that I imagined it to be. Okay, talk to you again soon. Well, I got the hand-laid turnouts off of the board. Without too much difficulty, I think I have the wires labeled, took pictures of the underside. What's left on the top of the cork are some segments of hand-laid track that I had put down to feed into the turnout. So those I can't really pry up well because the ties are glued to the cork. I guess I could try with a paint scraper, but I think I would ruin them anyway. So for the moment, I am just going to leave those where they are. Next up is to get those bullfrog turnout controllers off the bottom. Progress. Okay, I've finished dismantling that little wooden display that I had made up to have my handmade turnouts evaluated years ago. For the most part, everything in the track work came up. I did loosen two of the, what are they called? They're copper ties that, are, I think they're circuit board ties, they call them. And I have to glue two of them back. This is on a standard gauge turnout. And one on one of the narrow gauge turnouts, but that only take me a few minutes. So not too bad. I've gotten the bullfrogs taken off. Those are those controllers that Fast Tracks makes. And this you have to assemble. It comes as a kit. Take a little while. If you go back to that older video that I put in the link, you'll hear a little bit more about the construction of the bullfrogs. This part right here gets mounted to the underside of the layout. And this part is the control knob that comes out to the pull knob, if you want, out to the front of the fascia. So this, I have this stuff, I think they come in about 18-inch lengths. So yeah, I can make those longer. Pulling and pushing this yellow rod inside the red one activates the bullfrog. And then if you look up here, this is what's actually activating the turnout itself. So mounting it on that temporary platform that I had made, I had to cut these. I think I mentioned that before. And now I need it much longer to come through a couple layers of foam. So I have measured that. That is a hardened spring steel. It comes out as 0.037 or 8. That's a little odd size. Fast Tracks does sell that wire and that diameter. And I don't mind certainly dealing with them. They're nice people to deal with, but getting anything shipped out of Canada takes forever, and I'm impatient. So I'll look on eBay and see. I know I've seen it in 1 millimeter thickness, this wire, and that's 0.039, I think, so I might be able to get that. And then you just have to drill out this hole and the hole that goes in the control rod here on the turnout to handle that slightly larger wire. That's not a problem. So we'll see. I'll continue on with that. In the meantime, there's other work that I can be doing, and let's talk about that a little bit. I have to lay some dual gauge trackage, although I have commercial narrow gauge track. And here's some right here, actually. So these are put out by Micro Engineering, Flex Track HON3 code 70. So I have some of that I can use, and I have some commercial as well as hand-laid dual gauge turnouts. Here's a left-hand turnout with the narrow gauge on the left side, and so here, this is the narrow gauge part of the track coming out here, and then, of course, the full width is a standard gauge. So I have some of those. But I don't have any lengths of flex track in dual gauge, so that I'd be hand laying. I do have a pretty good supply of nickel silver code 70 rail, again from Micro Engineering. This package is almost empty, but I have another full package. And I got plenty of railroad ties. Got to stain those up and start laying some dual gauge trackage, and I'll do a video on that because I've had some people, some of my viewers, request to see how you hand lay track, so I'll do that. So all of that can be done while I'll get started on it anyway, while I'm waiting for that new rod to come in. What else do I want to say here? Oh, I've talked about the narrow gauge on the left of dual gauge track and the narrow gauge on the right on dual gauge turnouts, and let's talk about that a little bit more. Hold on a second, I'll turn this off and come back. All right, let's say that you have you've been hand laying your dual gauge track and the narrow gauge is on the right side, and all of a sudden you need to use a turnout, and all you have is one where the narrow gauge is on the left side. They have these transition tracks, and this is dual gauge HON3. This is by Shinohara, and Lambert used to sell it. This is code 70. Let's see what that looks like. What it is a piece of straight track where you go through a transition on the narrow gauge side only, because the outside is the standard gauge. Here you can see the narrow gauges on the bottom, and here you can see the narrow gauges on the top. So you can use a piece of this if you need to switch the side where the narrow gauge is. Handy little piece of trackage. So yeah, got all of that to do, and I think that's it. I'll just finish this up by showing you a few of my future ideas and finish this video up. Talk to you then. I can certainly continue the work where the covered bridge is inserted. I think what I am going to do, I had put this extra layer of foam on top of this specifically to make these cuts look a little deeper, like for under this bridge and down below in that bridge. But for the rest of the layout, I should be fine with just this thickness, one thickness of foam, and not that. So what I have to do, I think, is start weaning myself of this extra layer by having an incline come down as I move over this direction and come down to just this level. That's my plan right now. And on top of that foam will go cork. I have 1/4-inch cork, which works well because my structures are, a lot of them, installed on top of 1/4-inch board, and so that will just fill in fine. I recently bought a big roll of cork, and not that that'll last me for all of my work, but it should be enough for now. So yeah, moving ahead now, I will continue with track work, and I will film some of it. Certainly the hand laying of the track I'll show you. I'll show you when I get ready to install some of those bullfrog controllers, the work that's involved with that. Show you the development of the cut under the covered bridge here, and continue on with a mixture of other work as well. I have still structures I'll be building and other videos that will get filtered in between, but yeah, progress on the Slate Run, the upper shelf. I want to really, I guess, pretty much finish the upper shelf before I worry too much about the lower, because then at least I have something to show folks who come over to the house that looks like I've been doing something since I moved in here. So alrighty, I think that'll do it for this video, and I will continue when there's something worthwhile to show you. So work continues. As always, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you've not already done so, please subscribe to the channel, and I will be talking to you again soon.